Good morning, students. We were looking at the fact that, yes, for this in the chapter of Sufi and Bhakti tradition, that we have been looking at how it started. The whole thing started with, of course, we know that with the Vedas and the Purans, but we had also started seeing that different devotees, people who would like to reach salvation, and people who would like to experience divine, people who would like to experience spiritualism, they started also charting their own course, which was completely different from what the Vedas prescribed or the Purans prescribed. And they also, at the same point in time, they started debunking a lot of things which were considered to be very important by the Brahmins and the Brahminical traditions. So they also started coming up with the, because they started charting their own independent course. They felt that I do not need an intermediary, I do not need an interlocutor, I do not need a third person to actually teach me the path to God the Almighty, the Supreme Father, or Brahma, Vishnu, or Mahesh, or Goddess, Kali, Durga, whatever your affiliation or your you felt like having. So that is how it was. And now we have been looking at, especially in this chapter, that yes, people had started becoming more and more independent when they wanted to pursue spiritualism. And we definitely saw the tradition especially in South India, the tradition of Alvar and the Nayanas that started taking its root, which was a very recent one when you compare it with the Indian history, of course, that the Alvars would be into the devotion of Lord Vishnu, and of course the Nayanas would be about Lord Shiva. But there was an amazing sense of harmony between these two adherents of different gods. They were never in conflict with each other. There was no physical combat that used to happen among the two, just that ideologically they would be pursuing different paths, emotionally they would be pursuing different paths. So let's look into here this paragraph which we had left yesterday. Both Nayanas and Alvars were revered by Vellala peasants. Guys, Vellala peasants are usually, it is a farming community in South India, Vellala. They are primarily found in Tamil Nadu, of course, and a bit of it in southern Karnataka, but primarily in Tamil Nadu. And interestingly, they are also found in great numbers even in the country of Sri Lanka. Yes, it's because a lot of them also went from Tamil Nadu and settled in Sri Lanka in later years. Not surprisingly, rulers tried to win their support as well. The Chola kings, for instance, often attempted to claim divine support and proclaim their own power and status by building splendid temples that were adorned with stone and metal sculpture to recreate the visions of these popular saints who sang in the language of the people. Students, you have to understand that, there was some amazing there was I I really wish we were in class and I could have shown you certain things. Students, you have to understand this was a time which was actually where, not just in terms of spiritualism, you had, if I have to look even into the music of India for that matter, there was a Hindustani music which was primarily there in northern India. But then you have to understand that is the reason why when you listen to North Indian music, it appears to be an entirely different kind of music, and when you listen to the South Indian music, it appears to be an entirely different kind of music. And the reason for that is, and the South Indian music, we normally say South Indian, but it is known as Carnatic classical, the Carnatic Sangeet. And that was also given birth by three great devotees. They were not just musicians, they were great, you can call them bhakts of Lord Shiva and Vishnu. And they also, because as we had seen in this chapter, these great devotees started composing poems. They started composing music of their own, started singing in the praise of their Lord, and that's how even Carnatic music was born. In one of the great, men who gave birth to, of course, there was Tyagaraja, which we know that in South India there is an annual Tyagaraja festival which happens, which is an annual fair, and the greatest of the great musicians from around, even in North India, the great classical singers from North India also go there, and it's an honor to be invited into Tyagaraja festival. Then there was this another great devotee who is considered to be the father of Carnatic music, Muthuswami Dikshitar and Shyama Sastri. Okay, of course, these things are not there in this chapter, but let me tell you, this was the troika which gave birth to Carnatic music, which you today know as South Indian music. But in reality, they were not just musicians, but they were great devotees of Lord Shiva and Vishnu. Okay, who composed a lot of poems and songs in praise of their Lord, and they used to give tunes to them. They would play veena and they would give tunes to them. I wish I could elaborate it a bit more. That people like these guys, Muthuswami Dikshitar, Shyama Shastri, Tyagaraja, and particularly Muthuswami Dikshitar. He spent a great amount of his life even in Varanasi and learnt a great deal of music from even the great saints of Varanasi, Muthuswami Dikshitar and Shyama Sastri. So you have to understand it in a holistic manner rather than just going topic by topic. So that is how important these things were. It was not just that it was they were just trying. It was a kind of a social revolt of sorts, that it was only the people from the lower castes who were trying to abandon the Veda thing, or they were trying to chart a territory of their own or chart a course of their own, because everyone was kind of tortured and Pidit and something. No, you have to understand people like Tyagaraja, Muthuswami Dikshitar, Shyama Sastri, these great saints, all of them were Brahmins. They were not scheduled caste people. They all were Brahmins, and they also wanted an independent path to God, and the best way to reach the Almighty, they felt, was through music, and then they started composing their own stuff. Okay, so coming to this paragraph once again, these kings also introduced the singing of Tamil Shiva hymns in the temples under the royal patronage, taking the initiative to collect and organize them into the text. Further inscriptions evidence from around 945 suggests that the Chola ruler Prantakuan had consecrated metal images of Appar, Sambandar, and Sundarar in a Shiva temple. Again, guys, Appar is considered to be one, and of course, all these three are the great devotees of Lord Shiva. But you have to understand that Appar is considered, well, in South India. Appar is, you might have also watched it in movies. Appa is a father, Appa, it is father. In South Indian movies, they, and now even in Hindi movies, sometimes you must have heard. So he is considered to be the father of this, because he was, Muthuswami Dikshitar and Tyagaraja and Shama Shastri, they came much later. They are part of 13th and 14th century. But Appar was there in 7th century. Okay, just about 600, 700 years after death of Christ. So he was one of the earliest one who started and who took an independent path to yes, to the greatness, and about adherence to Lord Shiva. And Sambandar and Sundarar were, of course, guys. One thing is very unique about, but guys, let me. So Sambandar was another one, and who called Appar is his name was not Appar. It was Sambandar who called him Appar, because Sambandar Appar, after Appar, it was immediately Sambandar, and because he considered Appar to be his great guru, and he started calling him Appar. And of course, Sundarar was in the 8th century. He came a bit later after Sambandar. So these were carried in processions during the festivals of the saints. The Veerashaiva tradition in Karnataka, the 12th century, witnessed the emergence of a new movement in Karnataka led by a Brahmin named Vasavanna, who was the minister in the court of Kalachuri ruler. His followers were known as Veerashivas, heroes of Shiva, or Lingayats. So you can see, students, once again what I was just mentioning. So these people started their own independent course. They were not necessarily people from scheduled castes and the women and the scheduled tribes and the oppressed class. No, you again see it here that he was a Brahmin named Vasavanna who started again his a different tradition of uh, prayers of Lord Shiva, and they were known as Lingayats. Lingayats, students, they are very powerful. Coming to the the modern times, Lingayats happen to be a very powerful community in Karnataka, and during the time of elections, students, every political party wants to have the Lingayat support because they are a very united kind of a lot. They're extremely affluent, rich people, and they work as a unit all the time. So Lingayats continue to be an important community in the region to date, yes, and they worship Shiva in his manifestation as a linga, and men usually wear a small linga in a silver case in the loop strung over the left shoulder. Those who are revered include the Jangama or wandering monks. Lingayats believe that that on death the devotee would be united with Lord Shiva and would not return to this world, and therefore they do not practice funerary rites such as cremation prescribed in the Dharma Shastras. Instead, they ceremonially bury their dead. There is the only Hindu community which buries its dead. Otherwise, you know that Hindus always burn their dead, right? And not just the Hindus, even the great saints who were born as Hindus, their followers also practice. They have the same ceremonial rites, whether you talk about Vardhaman Mahavira, who ultimately became the father of Jainism, known as the father of Jainism. All the Jains are cremated. They are not, they don't have some different funeral practices. They have the same funeral practices as Hindus. Similarly with Buddhists, right? Buddhists in India, they go to the crematorium grounds just like we Hindus do, right? And similarly with Sikhs, Guru Nanak Dev Ji was born as a Hindu and he started his own Sikhism. But then we all know that the Sikhs have the same funeral and the cremation rites. They are not any different to what we Hindus have. But Lingayats are unique in that respect, whereby they bury their dead, they do not burn them. That is, in the crematoriums and the cremation grounds. So the Lingayats challenged the idea of caste and the pollution attributed to certain groups by the Brahmins. They also questioned the theory of rebirth. These ones, because we just studied that the moment they feel that a Lingayat is dead, he gets united with his Supreme Father, Lord Shiva. These won them followers amongst all those who were marginalized within the Brahminical social order. The Lingayats also encouraged certain practices disapproved in Dharmashastras, such as post puberty marriage and the remarriage of widows. Our understanding of the Veerashaiva tradition is derived from Vachanas, literally sayings composed in Kannada by women and men who joined the movement. Thank you.